Okay. What is the most effective method for classroom management?
Okay, so for classroom management, I definitely feel like my strategies have changed over time. But I feel like, especially this year, I focus on a few things. Number one, positives. So trying to work on the positive reinforcement. A lot of praise, especially in the beginning, a lot of modeling of expectations and expected behaviors, and really reinforcing and praising when those behaviors are seen. I feel like that makes a big difference in setting up the rest of the school year.
Okay.
And then when you have to make some of those corrections or adjustments, having something that holds the kids accountable. So, for example, like for us, when we use dojos, it's not just a warning, like there is something tangible, so to speak, tied to it.
Yeah.
Something that has communication between school and home, I think, is also really important so that parents are connected and always knowing what's going on, both for those consequences and corrective situations, but also for the positives, like making sure the parents are seeing what a wonderful job they're doing with certain things, and showing a lot of that reinforcement as well. I also feel like it needs to be somewhat private. So I try really hard, like for example, when we use the dojos, I make sure to never let the kids see the home screen that shows everybody's
Somebody
dojos.
else's.
Yes.
Yeah.
We talk a lot about it not being anybody's business, like things like that. Like it's just your own thing. Also, I try really hard. It's been difficult more at the end of the year, but like if I am gonna, so to speak, take a dojo, right? Use a negative dojo, I try to tell the student more privately, right? Like I might walk up and say something.
Yes.
Rather than just shouting across. Yes.
Yeah.
Things like that.
Okay.
Same thing with like corrective behavior and just general classroom management throughout the day. Like I use proximity a lot. If a student's, off task or talking, I try to walk around closer to them if I notice it, or, talk to them about finding a better place to work, things like that, where it's trying to cut things off before they become a bigger issue.
Yeah.
It's like most things this year has been a little different. It's been more challenging with more kids, but
space in the classroom.
Yes.
Yeah.
Also things like I use flexible seating. Or for the majority of the school year, we've used flexible seating.
Yeah.
And that I also kind of feel like that's a type of management style because.
Do you find that it helps? This is the first year I've seen that being utilized, like standing desks and fidgets, and they get
so lots of different opportunities for movement throughout the day. And I started doing it before COVID, so maybe 2018, something like that was the first year I tried it.
Yeah.
And I was really, really nervous because I thought that the kids would be talking so much more and misbehaving so much more and way more off task because they had so much freedom and they could sit by their friends every day.
Right.
But I actually found out that the opposite was occurring, where it was they felt like it was such a privilege to be able to sit with their friends.
Okay.
That it almost seemed less exciting when they were in a group with their friends.
Okay.
Because they were sitting next to them all day.
Yeah.
And they could talk about the content and talk about what we were discussing in the classroom with their friends.
Right.
Rather
so maybe
than
they were more comfortable talking to who they're comfortable talking to. So there was more of that going on.
And there was less off-task discussion happening just because they were there all the time. I don't know.
Yeah.
And the fact that it was something they really, really liked, that if they weren't using it appropriately, that privilege was then taken away.
Right.
And they
so that could be
really
another
didn't want that to happen.
effective tool for you. It's like another.
Yes.
Yeah. You can't take something away.
Right.
You don't give them something to begin with.
Right. Yeah. And I felt like, generally speaking, the majority were really responsible with it. And even this school year, I mean, we lasted, I'd say, until, April?
Yeah.
Probably the beginning of April. I think it was just maybe the beginning of this month, maybe right after spring break or so, that I had to kind of lock it down, and we started with assigned seats for a while. And my hope is that, I think I'm just going to wait till after MAP testing, since we're already in it. And then after MAP testing, so in a week or two, that I'm going to start giving them some of that freedom back and see if they can, be responsible. Yeah, exactly. But I really like to put as much of that responsibility on the kids as possible. And I feel like at this age, it's a big transition.
Yeah.
Them learning that they are responsible for their behaviors. That they are responsible for their learning. They are responsible for those things. It's not their teacher. It's not their mom or dad, their brother or sister, their friends. They are in control of themselves.
Yeah. I think that kind of speaks to actually something not in this class, but in the other class I'm taking. We're learning about like self-regulated learning and stuff, and then like metacognition. So, in terms of, I guess, making them, like you're saying, responsible, like with the plan books and things like that. Like that is their responsibility, and if they don't do it, then they have consequences. So it kind of reinforces expectations. And
and I think also just I try to have this general feel in the room and with my relationship with the kids of like, it's okay to make a mistake, right? It's okay to get your plan book, forget to get your plan book signed.
Right.
It's okay to be talking too much once in a while. Like, we all do those things. Exactly. Forget your Chromebook, you whatever. I don't want it to be that every single time something small goes wrong, you're getting this consequence and you feel punished.
Right.
That's not the feeling I want.
Right.
But...
Well, because to that point, like, I do feel like some kids don't know how to take constructive criticism then. I have seen, I'm thinking of like certain students, where you do kind of make a correction or give a suggestion and they shut down and they don't know how to handle that in a healthy way.
Yes,
and
exactly.
So I think creating, cause
trying to have that balance of an environment of like, you are held accountable for your choices, but on the other hand, you're also given some grace when needed. Yeah. You know, because I need grades too, right? Like I tell the kids sometimes, like, I didn't get to grade the thing that I said I was going to grade by today, and I apologize, but you know, this stuff came up last night and I just couldn't get to it. Like, sorry guys, I'll really try my best for tomorrow. Yeah. So I think just having kind of that community feeling of like we're all one big community and we work better together, and just I think that classroom climate plays a huge piece into classroom management. Yes. Because if they don't want to do well and if they don't want to feel connected, then the management and the behavior is going to be really difficult to control. Correct. So I feel like from the get-go, having that connection, those relationships really lays the foundation for the management throughout the rest of the year. Okay. And those I feel like are big things. I mean, we also use like the class game board, so not only is it individual reinforcement, but I try to do as much of that whole class reinforcement as well. Like we work really well together as a team. Yes. And that's great. They love that, especially at the beginning of the year. Like it's so exciting.
Well, the class pet and the working towards
and
goals.
Guppy.
Yes.
They love Guppy.
Yes.
I also love Guppy.
All right, that was awesome. Thank you. Okay. And then what is the best or worst thing about being a teacher nowadays?
Okay, so I think that the best thing is still the kids, like the relationship with the kids. My absolute favorite thing, obviously, about my job is just developing all of those relationships, getting to know so many really cool kids. Yes. They're all so different. I love when they come back for something at high school or they have little siblings. I mean, I have some kids from my very first class or first couple classes that are 23, 24 years old, and I might see them at field day because their parents still volunteer, and just seeing the things that they've developed and they've done with their lives, and you know, they still remember me, and they're like, remember that thing you did or said or whatever it is.
It's had a big impact on them.
Yes. Yeah. So developing those relationships with the kids, getting to know them, getting to know their families, getting positive feedback from parents, like having a parent come up and tell you you made a difference is just you cannot. There's nothing better, in my opinion. Like, it's brought me to tears more than once, you know? Reminding myself of the things I've done. I keep a binder of like notes kids have written me.
Yeah, I love that you do that. Yeah. I love that.
It's great, and all the old school photos, and just I think that's my favorite part of what I do is just the kids. I love them. Yes. And I would say the worst or most challenging part of teaching is twofold. Number one, and they kind of go together, but just the balance, especially now being a parent and a spouse and having other responsibilities outside of school. Yeah. When I first started teaching, I could stay here till 6 or 7 every night. Right. You know, I could grade all weekend. I poured everything I had. Being a teacher was my entire identity. Yeah. So now trying to balance and have a healthy balance where sometimes no, I may not be completely planned. Right. I mean, I'm always planned for at least a couple days, but maybe I didn't finish reading the 100 pages I have left to read for the ELA unit for this week. But I'm good till Wednesday, and instead, I'm going to enjoy my son's football game. Right. Or, my daughter wants me to play Barbies with her, and yes, she's 5. Of course I want to play Barbies with you for 15 minutes.
You have to make that time. Yeah.
That's been the most challenging, I feel like, at this stage of life, is just that balance and having a healthy balance of, I also, telling my own kids, like, I need a couple hours to work because I really need to get my stuff done because this is my responsibility.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
and that's good for them to see, too.
You have your homework and your responsibility. Mommy also has things that she has to do for her job, right?
Right.
And just, I think we've discussed it before, but, like, the amount of things that aren't teaching, that are in teaching now.
Yes.
The behind the scenes, the paperwork, the data collection, the test scores, the data analysis that was never a part of it before.
Yeah.
Which is really challenging because I'm not a data analyst,
right.
but I sometimes feel like I'm expected to be a data analyst.
Yeah. It's like you need like a whole training on like,
I need another
research
degree.
And assessments. Yeah.
Yes, and in no way, shape, or form do I not want to do what's absolutely best for my kids. If you tell me my students are lacking in this skill, I will find a way to teach that skill and supplement with that skill. But we're now needing to analyze all the scores and analyze all the multiple streams of data and find those gaps, then find ways.
Do they explain to you how they want you to do that? Or do you just kind of have to figure it out?
Sometimes.
Okay.
And I think that lately with IAR and MAP, we've had a lot of difficulty in the last few years because there's different voices on the topic. Okay. We're being told this from one place, this from another, that this is more important than this, but sometimes this is more important than that, etc.
Right.
So, just for example, MAP might say that we really need to teach decimals because our kids are lacking in decimals. Okay. But on IAR, we need to make sure we're teaching extended response and, geometry, right? Because we're lacking in there. Okay, well, which one are we supposed to do first? Which one's more important? Because we test in April and May.
Yeah.
So there's only so much we can do, and if we pull in our geometry things earlier, which we usually teach at the very end of May, we pull it to April. Okay, but now we're not teaching whatever we pulled out.
Okay. Yeah.
We can't possibly fit everything in before testing time. So, and I think that a lot of teachers, we all want to do our very best, right?
Yeah.
When I see kids who don't make their goals, even still this many years in, I feel like responsible for it, even though
you want to do everything you can.
It's not necessarily my fault, and I feel like I've done everything.
Yeah.
Because you always want to do everything possible to help the kids succeed, and it's really difficult when you feel like there's obstacles that you can't help, that are just there and you can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
And I think that just ties into the best part, which is because we love the kids so much.
Right.
Like a good teacher really just loves your kids, and you want the best for them, and that's the reason why you feel bad.
Yes.
It's because you love them so much.
Going back to like the testing and everything, I know this isn't on my list, but I just was thinking about it. So we were talking about that too in assessments and how now it's different. It feels different. Like it feels like there's more evaluation of like where the kids are and everything. Is that a positive, or is that hindering, like what you said, like now it's kind of creating its own set of issues within the classroom?
I think one set of standardized tests can be valuable just to gauge where kids are. For example, with having the higher math kids, it's really helpful to be able to identify and pull out those truly gifted kids to be able to push them, to be able to extend their learning so that they're not just sitting there, right? And even in the classroom, I use formative assessments in math, especially, just using that as an example, to find who can be pushed higher, right? If we didn't have those types of things, we wouldn't be able to use iExcel and math, Khan Accelerator, and things like that to be able to push those kids higher, like we discussed earlier.
Customizes their curriculum. Yeah.
And also just to generally gauge, are they making growth? So yes, I do think the testing has a value.
Yeah, like the MAP tests, right? Like that's kind of that purpose. Okay.
If you want MAP or IR or whatever you choose.
Yeah.
However, I do feel like the amount of testing we have, not only do we have MAP 3 times a year, IAR in the spring, which takes a whole week. 5th grade has the science version, right? We also now have Ames Web math twice a year, Ames Web reading twice a year. We've got 7 different surveys, SEL surveys, connection card surveys, all these things. I feel like we're just constantly being assessed. And I mean, I have kids who are in tears because they're so stressed about testing, and they shouldn't feel that way.
Right.
But yet, as teachers, we get pressure to put the pressure on them because if they don't perform, we are the ones sitting in the meetings being asked why they didn't score as well as they should.
Yeah.
But even in my parent email the week before IAR, I said, please have them prepared, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
However, please remember that this is not a reflection on who your student is as a person.
Exactly.
Please know that, I look at more than just this.
Right. It's like
because
a double-edged sword. It's like you need
some
the benchmarks, but
correct.
You don't want to.
They have such testing anxiety.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never seen kids like I have in the last few years. They're
And I mean, it was interesting to see.
They're so worked up about it.
It was interesting to see how I'm thinking of the IAR testing because we just had that. How much it was built up. We had the pep assembly. We had treats for them, and it was interesting to see the different tools that kind of got them maybe in the right mindset for the testing. But also, it felt a little like you're also building it up so much, and I think some of the kids were getting
they're so
stressed out
anxious.
about it. Yeah. So.
And the reason why we've had those things is because our growth wasn't as high as they wanted it to be this past year, even though in the district our test scores are the highest. But the other schools had higher growth.
Okay.
Because their scores were lower, so they had more room for growth. I mean, I had 3 kids in my math class who got a perfect score on the IAR, every single point. They got a perfect score on IAR in 3rd grade.
So you can't grow from that. How do you grow from
so
that?
I think that's some of the disconnect too between admin and staff and different things and I don't know where exactly it is. It could be way up.
Right.
I'm not saying it's anybody's fault necessarily, but instead of saying, wow, your scores were so high, you guys did such an amazing job, I haven't heard that once.
Yeah.
We dug to find that information. So I was a staff, we're like, why did we not make the same growth?
Right.
It's because we were already that much higher, that the room for growth was so much smaller.
Right.
But it was focused on what we're needing to improve on.
But then, because of that, you get that pressure to improve. But it's all numbers based, which isn't.
And I have a kid this year who's, who had a grandparent die days before the test, or kids for MAP testing. I have a student who's going to Paris for a week and a half and is coming back the day of testing.
Yeah.
So there's things like that you can't control.
Right.
So I don't know. I think it's important to have those benchmarks.
Yes.
I think it's important to make sure that they take it seriously.
Yeah.
But I do feel like that there is a cap that there could be, and I think that we should take more time just celebrating their success. Because I also feel like if we had a pep assembly where we looked at their scores from last year and we're like, oh my gosh, you guys did amazing.
Yes.
If there was more of that, I feel like they would. I mean, if somebody said, oh my gosh, you are such an amazing teacher, I am so impressed.
Yes.
I feel like that. I think, okay.
That gives you the boost of
instead of saying, don't forget to do this, this, and this. Well, I think I already do that, don't I?
Right.
You start second guessing yourself.
Yes. That makes a lot of sense.
That's just. I'm not an administrator.
And I feel like
I'm not in charge.
But I feel like that's like you said, that's the disconnect. And I feel like when you're in the classroom, you get to experience that. You get to take the temperature of where the kids are at and how it's affecting them. And when you get removed from the classroom, you lose kind of that human touch.
And I mean, I had a student last year. I had a student last year for math who, I think it was last year. He was a 5th grader this year. Who I know for a fact that kid grew exponentially throughout the year. I mean, I pulled him in every challenge group. I pulled him with the gifted kid, my accelerated crew, when I would pull them for things. He was doing so well. I was like, oh my gosh, he's killing it. I cannot wait to see his scores. He went down 15 points.
Oh my gosh.
I think I chuckled.
Right.
Because it was so absurd.
Right.
And I'm like, there is no possible way that this is accurate.
But it was just a testing thing.
I don't have it. I mean, I don't know what he did. Maybe he really.
Or maybe he was not into reading.
I have no idea what it was for math, but I'm telling you, this student, I know for a fact he knew so many things that he was capable of that there's no way he could have done in the fall, and he went down and kind of a lot.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, well,
but see, those are the things that
do.
you can't take all of those kind of situations into consideration.
Yeah. But anyways, I mean, we do what we keep going. We try to make the best of it.
Yeah. Okay. I think I'm gonna stop there.
Okay.